الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله من بعد. Today inshallah we're going to start a new book. We only took the characteristics of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ from the Shama'il. We're going to move on to an important topic, and that's Tawheed. And that's Kitab Tawheed by Sheikh Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. Explanation of Sheikh Saadi. Brothers, please, we're going to start the lesson. If you want to have conversations, please go outside, take it outside. What else? Okay, but brothers that are listen, maybe you can get close. It's a sunnah to get close to the person who's giving the lesson. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I have not created jinn and man except to worship me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before creating jinn and mankind, had angels created, and the angels do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them to do. لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. Angels do not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in what He orders them, and they do what Allah orders them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for His wisdom, wanted to create beings that will choose to worship Him. So worship based on choice, not based on order. And that's why He subhanahu wa ta'ala created jinn kind first, and then after that He created mankind. So jinn kind existed on this earth before mankind. And Iblis, we seek refuge with Allah from him and his helpers, is the father of all the jinn, the same way that Adam alayhi salam is the father of all mankind. And Iblis used to be a very big worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was a abid. Iblis was a abid. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam, Iblis turned around Adam, because Adam was created from clay, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before blowing the soul, Adam alayhi salam was like a statue made out of clay. And Iblis entered the mouth and exited the back, and he saw that Adam alayhi salam was empty on the inside. So he said, if Allah allows me to misguide this being, I shall misguide him. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathed the soul into Adam alayhi salam, He ordered the angels to make sujood to Adam alayhi salam. It's not sujood ibadah, it is sujood takrim. It's sujood to honor Adam alayhi salam for a wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, and the angels did not know. That's why in Surah Al-Baqarah Allah tells us that when Allah wanted to create Adam alayhi salam, the angels told him, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَن يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء. Are you going to put on this earth those that commit fasad and kill, while we angels worship you? Why did the angels say that? Because they saw what the jinn did on this earth before the creation of Adam alayhi salam. This is how they were. Because jinn are created from fire, and they were very big in wars, fighting one another, killing one another. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that which the angels do not know. So in any event, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the angels to prostrate to Adam alayhi salam, Iblis was with the angels at that point, because he had a high status. He was the father of all jinn kind, and he was a abid, he was a worshipper. But then he felt that he was a better creature than Adam alayhi salam. That's why the scholar said the first one to make qiyas was Iblis. Because Iblis made qiyas, that means comparison. He says, I am created from fire, Adam alayhi salam created from clay, fire is better than clay, therefore I am better than Adam. So the scholars say that Iblis was the first one to make qiyas. Of course his qiyas was not correct, because he forgot that Adam alayhi salam was also composed of a soul that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathed into him. And that's why he did not want to make sujood to Adam alayhi salam. And obviously, if a person is a good worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not let him feel too proud because of the ni'mah that Allah gave him, that he is worshipping Allah. Because as we said, Iblis was also a big worshipper. But yet, he became arrogant and he became a disbeliever. And his name, actually, according to some narrations, is Azazil. That's the name of Iblis. Iblis means that it's hopeless for him for Allah's mercy to reach him. Mublis min rahmatillah. So Iblis is a nickname, but his actual name is Azazil, right? So Iblis did not make sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, he did not make sujood to Adam alayhi salam. Now the scholars say, what if instead of making sujood to Adam alayhi salam, Iblis told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm going to make sujood to you and I'm not going to make sujood to Adam alayhi salam. Would the outcome be different? No, the outcome would not be different, because the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Iblis to make sujood to Adam alayhi salam. Therefore, when Allah tells us a certain command, we don't say, oh, we're not going to do this, we're going to do something else that's better. That's, again, making qiyas. That's also trying to dedicate what's right, what's wrong, instead of obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the reason why He created jinnkind and mankind is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Most mankind today, if you ask them why do you exist, they just say they exist in vain. They say that we're just born, we live our lives, and then we die, and that's it. It's the end of us. They don't know that there's going to be, that there's a higher purpose for creating them, and that there is going to be a return. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have not created jinn and man except to worship me. And we sent a messenger to every nation, saying, worship Allah and shun the Tawheed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent messengers to every single nation. Their creed was the same. The creed, the aqidah of all these messengers was the same, which is Tawheed, worship Allah alone. This is the one thing where nations have gone wrong. Okay, so nations, all of them, or almost all of them, admit that there is a creator up there that created mankind, that created the heavens, created the earth. But when it comes to worship, they don't worship Allah alone. They worship Allah with something else. Okay, this is shirk. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent messengers to every nation telling them, worship Allah alone. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, whomever wants to have a look at the will, wasiyah, the will, when a person dies, he leaves a will. So Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, whomever wants to have a look at the will of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, placed his seal upon, then let him recite Allah's saying in Surah Al-An'am, قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُ مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ. Okay, so come, I will recite what your Lord has prohibited for you. Number one, that you do not associate anything with Allah. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His commands always starts with Tawheed. Don't worship anything besides Allah. And then the second one is وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Be kind to your parents. Also, Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu said, while I was riding upon a donkey with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to me, this is Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu speaking, O Mu'adh, do you know what Allah's right is upon his slaves, and what the slaves' right upon Allah is? I replied, Mu'adh replied, Allah and His Messenger know better. Because the Prophet ﷺ, when he asked companions, out of respect, they always tell him, Allah wa Rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and His Messenger know best. So, he ﷺ said, Allah's right upon His slaves is that they worship Him without associating anything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, now, logically speaking, why do we worship Allah alone? Logically speaking, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone created the universe. Allah did not have any helper. Allah alone gives us sustenance, brings down the rain, answers our dua, gives us rizq, calls us to live, calls us to die. He alone subhanahu wa ta'ala does these things. So it's common sense for us to only worship Him. Okay? But the mushriks of Quraysh admitted the first part of Tawheed, they admitted that Allah is the creator, that He's the one that brings down the rain, He's the one that causes life and death, but they worshipped others with Him. With Him. He did not worship Allah. They worshipped Allah, but they worshipped something else with Him. This is the meaning of shirk. Shirk like shuraka, sharik, somebody who's a partner. Okay, sharika is a corporation, has more than one owner. Okay, so shirk, that means you worship in Allah and you worship in someone or something else with Him. So Allah's right on His slaves is that they worship Him. And then if the slaves do that, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it upon Himself that He should not punish them or send them to hellfire forever. As we said before, and this is why we took this topic, this is the only way to not remain in hellfire forever, is for you to have Tawheed. Okay, if a person commits a lot of evil deeds, a lot of major sins, at least let his Tawheed be intact, because that's the only way of salvation, that's the only way for him or her to not remain in hellfire forever. So then Mu'adh radiallahu anh asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do I not inform the people, give them this glad tidings so that they will be happy? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said no, because they may depend solely on this. They may depend on the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then start disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like many Muslims do today, they go on disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you tell them this is haram, they tell you Allah is Ghafoor Rahim. True, Allah is Ghafoor Rahim, no one is going to deny that, but Allah is just and Allah is severe in punishment. So from Allah's justice is that He is not going to treat he who obeys Him the same way as the one who disobeys Him. This is justice. أَفَنَجْعَلُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ كَالْمُفْسِدِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, are we going to treat those that believe in Allah and do good deeds like those that do evil deeds in the land? سَوَاءً مَحْيَاهُمْ وَمَمَاتُهُم. The way they live and the way they die. So their life and their death, it's not going to be the same. This is from the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if Allah tells you Allah is Ghafoor Rahim, say yes, Allah is Ghafoor Rahim, but Allah is just. You know, a person wakes up at night, fasts Ramadan, sits through these lessons, tries to obey Allah, and then you tell me that you're going to get the same reward as the person who does the opposite of all these things. This doesn't make sense. Okay, so Allah Ghafoor Rahim, but Allah is severe in punishment, and also Allah is just. Okay, so Sheikh Saadi comments on these hadith. He says, number one, in these hadith and these ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the wisdom behind creating mankind and jinnkind, and that is to worship Him. Allah created us to worship Allah. Okay, so when some people ask some childish questions like, why can't we all just get along and live in peace? This is not what Allah created you. Allah created you to test you. وَالَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. It is He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has created life and death, so He may test you. Who among you is going to do the best deeds? Not the most deeds, the best deeds. And the best deeds are the deeds that are according to the instructions of Allah and to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Sa'id bin Musayyib rahimahullah said. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that since Adam alayhi salam and Hawa disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made mankind and jinnkind enemies in this earth. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in many places in the Quran, اهبطوا بعضكم لبعض عدو. So there's always going to be a fight between good and evil. There's always going to be a fight between good and evil until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides that this time is up. Game over in this world. So there's always going to be this fight between good and evil. So when a person says, why can't we get along? Tell them, because this is not the design of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People of Jannah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among them, will get along and will have everything that they wish for. So first thing is the wisdom behind creating mankind and jinnkind. Number two, that worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with worshiping Allah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyya, because this is where mankind has gone wrong. As we said before, they don't argue with you that Allah is the creator, but when it comes to worship, they worship others with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, all the prophets that Allah sent to their messengers, they sent them for Tawheed al-Uluhiyya. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. Surely we have sent in every single nation a messenger. What does this messenger tell his people? He doesn't tell them be nice, fast. No, he says اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. Worship only Allah and stay away from taghut. Taghut is anything that is worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so taghut is anything that is worshipped besides Allah.
And it's pleased with it.
Sorry?
And it's pleased with it. You have to add that part because Isa alayhi salam was worshipped, but then he's not pleased with it, so that would not make him a taghut. Do you understand?
Oh, okay. No. You're talking about people. No, anything. So we're saying, so you're talking, for example, Isa alayhi salam is worshipped besides Allah, but he's not pleased with it. So Isa alayhi salam is not a taghut. We're not talking about people. We're not talking about the types of taghut. Now we're talking about taghut is anything that is worshipped besides Allah. Okay? So Christianity is a taghut. Okay? Judaism is a taghut. Atheism is a taghut. Secularism is a taghut. Obeying the leaders that forbid what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made allowed to you is a taghut. Okay, some leaders basically this is what they do. They tell you, Allah says A, no, we want you to say B. If you obey him, this is a taghut, you're worshipping a lead. So this taghut, anything that is worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are different sections, this detailing the taghut that is basically Isa alayhi salam, is worshipped besides Allah, but he's not happy with it. Okay, he does not allow it, as Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Others, they are happy with it. Okay? So, أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. Taghut is anything that is worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, irrespective of the actual person or the thing, whether they're happy with it or not. Number 3, whomever does not do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders him to do, did not worship Allah. So what's ibadah? Ibadah, as Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says, ismun jami'. Ibadah is a single noun that depicts everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes for you to do and dislikes for you to do. Okay, ibadah. So anything. So Allah tells you to pray, this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to pray. Allah tells you to fast, this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do, this is fasting. Allah wants you to not kill unjustly, it's ibadah for you to not kill unjustly. Okay, so this is ibadah, worshiping Allah. Okay. Number 4, the wisdom behind sending messengers, as we said, is to tell their people to worship Allah alone. Number 5 is that every single nation had their messengers sent to them. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ. Allah says, فِي كُلِّ, in every single nation. Number 6, that the creed of the aqidah, the creed of all the messengers is one, which is Tawheed, worshiping Allah alone. What is different is the legislation, الشرائع. What's halal, what's haram differs from time to time, from nation to nation. And the most perfect ones is the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected for the Muslims. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. But for example, for the Jews, a man is allowed to get married to 2 sisters at the same time. In Islam, it's forbidden. Okay, so this is Shariah. It's different between 2 religions. But when it comes to the creed, it's one, which is worshiping Allah alone. 7th one, that worshiping Allah does not happen except if you disbelieve in a taghut. Okay? That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ يَكْفُرُ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ. So you cannot worship Allah except if you shun away the taghut. Number 8, the taghut is general in anything that is worshipped besides Allah. This is what the Sheikh is explaining that. الطاغوت عام في كل ما عبد من دون الله. Okay, so 8, taghut is anything that is worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 9, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, or rather the Salaf took the 3 verses that we mentioned before in Surah Al-An'am and in Surah Al-Isra as great ayat because they had 10 commandments. So, if you hear the Jews have 10 commandments, Muslims also have 10 commandments, right? And it's in Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6. قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُ مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ. The one in Surah Al-Isra has 18 instructions. And it starts with لا تجعل مع الله إلها آخر So first is worship Allah alone. Don't make another God that you worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 11 is that the Surah An-Nisa chapter 4 is called the verse of the 10 rights. Okay, Surah An-Nisa is called the surah of the 12 rights. Okay, and that's the one that says وَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. So we have different commandments, different number of commandments in different surahs. So we said in Surah Al-An'am there is 10. In Surah An-Nisa there are 10. In Surah Al-Isra there are 18. Okay. Number 13 is that we need to recognize what our duty is to Allah. In the hadith of Mu'adh bin Jabal, the Prophet ﷺ tells us that our duty towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to worship Him alone. Okay? And number 15, we know that if we do what Allah ordered us to do, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not punish us. Number 16, from the hadith of Mu'adh bin Jabal, the scholars have said that sometimes it's okay to hold back some knowledge if there is a maslahah, if there is some goodness in doing that. Okay, but we should not misconstrue this so that we don't fall into what the Jews and Christians did, that they hid all of the knowledge. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تَجْعَلُونَهُ قَرَاطِيسَ تُبْدُونَهَا وَتَخْفُونَ كَثِيرًا. They took all of the knowledge, they hid it. And they only show portions of the knowledge based on who pays money, based on certain aspects of the dunya that they did. But in Islam it's the opposite. You show most of it. Some things you may hold them back. You know, some things that may cause fitna, some things that may cause the people to misunderstand certain aspects of the deen. Okay, because there are some hadith that if you mention them by themselves, people are gonna say, well, that means if I only do this thing, that's it, I'm gonna enter Jannah. But the hadith sometimes has to be construed with other hadith that make the general as specific. So what type of knowledge to be held back, this is something for the scholars to decide. But as we said, it's an exception to the rule. The rule is that almost all of the knowledge has to be shown to the people. Number 17, that it is recommended to give glad tidings to a Muslim with that which makes him happy. And that's it for this chapter. If you have any questions, brothers, go ahead and ask. Brother Malik?
So you're reading the book by Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, right? There's people that say prior to him that people didn't understand Tawheed. What do you say about that?
Well, look, okay, let's just talk in general. Today, for example, if you go to the Muslim land, okay, every single Muslim land besides Saudi Arabia, until recently they entered the Statue of Liberty, all Muslim land have graves. Okay, is there any graves in Somalia?
Graves?
Yeah.
What kind of graves?
Like awliya. There is. So yeah. So basically, when he came, basically he was renewing. Yeah, in Morocco, to anywhere you go, there's that thing. So of course that's not part of Islam, you know. So we know that, right?
يوم لا بد في كلام عربي الحديث ما هو كل يوم انجليزي بيتكلم الصومالي كلها عربي
عربي؟ Who speak Arabic here? من يتكلم العربية؟
لا بد انه ايش؟
من يتكلم العربية هنا؟
ايوه يوم
Arabic.
Not Arabic, right?
Even the Somalis came from different countries.
Huh?
Even we Somalis came from different countries. Some of us.
الصومالي كلها عربي فاهم علشان ايش؟ تفسير هذا فاهم كلها لكن انجليزي ون النبي الثاني ما فيها كلها عربي صومالي عربي عارفه
أنا ما عندي مشكلة، أنا ممكن أعطي درس بالعربي، الحمد لله بكلم العربي، أنا ما عندي ولا مشكلة. إذا عايز عربي أعطيك العربي. But I think the majority here speaks English, right? So لا يعرفون العربي، لا. I'll say both.
We understand Arabic, we understand the hadith and everything, but responding some of us, can't.
So maybe I just add the hadith in Arabic. It's better than when I say the ayah or hadith, I say in Arabic too, so that.
We understand Arabic.
That's it.
خير إن شاء الله خير.
But I can't ask you through Arabic.
Okay, no problem. Huh? Okay, I speak 5 languages, mashallah. So you have very choices to communicate with me. Okay, so the important is that you understand. Okay, so
Mention the ayah and hadith and then you English.
okay, this is good. Okay, we'll do that inshallah. So ayah hadith we say in Arabic, and then English inshallah.
But when you are reading even in Arabic, they already understand it. For those who knows Arabic, like for example, you read a hadith. Hadith itself is Arabic.
Yes.
So when you are explaining, we are just explaining for us. But those who knows Arabic, they already know what it means. They don't need for explanation because we are reading that Arabic in Arabic.
Right, so how are we gonna balance between the people that don't know
For example,
Arabic?
You said, there is ayah said, or there is a word you say in Arabic, ittaqullah.
Yes.
Ittaqullah is fear God.
Yeah.
So when you read a hadith, already that hadith you read it in Arabic. So for those who knows Arabic, they understand.
They understand. How about the ones that don't know Arabic?
So for those who knows English, you can explain for it.
Okay. So basically, so inshallah, we'll read it in Arabic and then we'll explain in English, right? Okay, that sounds good, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Any questions? Oh, yeah. So basically, Muhammad al-Wahhab did not bring, and look, you have to understand, any scholar that tells you I bring something new, this is deviant. This is innovation. Any scholar has to bring something that a scholar before him bring all the way to Sahaba and the Prophet. Nobody brings something new in the religion. Because Allah said, Hajjat al-Wada' al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. The religion is perfected in Hajjat al-Wada'. So any scholar that brings something, he cannot bring something new. Otherwise, he's innovation. So Muhammad al-Wahhab was just a person that studied, for example, many people today, in Somalia, they study Tawheed, right? And they see things and they say this is wrong. So basically, he took it upon himself to say that I need to change these graves because many people are misguided by it. You understand? Because if you're born in a country that worships graves, you're gonna grow up worshiping graves. It's gonna be difficult for you to worship Allah alone. You understand? So basically, he did not bring anything new, right? So it's. So if you, and again, his books are here because sometimes the Prophet ﷺ, when he first came, the Quraysh they called him names, Sha'ir, Majnoon, Sabi. They called him. It's a defamation campaign, right? So that people don't listen to him. So even this Sheikh is one of the Mashayikh. Ibn Taymiyyah, many people say bad things about him. Muhammad al-Wahhab say bad things about him. Some people say bad things about Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah. Some people, anytime there's somebody else on the truth, Shaitan is always going to have some enemies. So how do we know if this person did something good or not? We look at his writing. So if we see that something he wrote goes against Quran and Sunnah, as I always say, we don't follow him. We don't worship scholars. We worship Allah. Okay, so if somebody said that this person has something here that's not in Islam, here's the book. Tell me where it is. It's in Arabic and it's in English. Tell me what's in this book that is not according to Quran and Sunnah, and I'm with you. If I see it's not Quran and Sunnah, I don't have to listen to it. You understand? But again, we have to be careful. There's always enemies of the truth. People that want to follow dunya, so they defame any current that tries to change things. Allah knows best. Yeah.
Another question.
Go ahead.
Prior to Abdul Wahhab, was there anyone who wrote a book about Tawheed?
Any person that there is Aqidah Wasitiyah by Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah.
Okay, so did he explain it further? Like Abdul Wahhab, did he explain it further, or?
No, what Abdul Wahhab did is that he made it in plain terms.
Oh, okay.
Plain terms, to the point that I heard Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah say that even the illiterate people in Saudi Arabia, he wrote Kitab Tawheed in their dialect. So a person does not know how to read and write, very old, and basically he knows these things in their own language, in very simple terms. Okay, so like I said, what's Tawheed? Tawheed is Allah alone created everything, worship Him alone. Yes, in other words, he simplified a lot of the things that the scholars have done. And you see the whole book is based on Quran, Sunnah, Quran, Sunnah, Quran, Sunnah. So he doesn't say, I think my opinion is, okay?
Yes, but
Yes, no.
during the Sahaba, what he brought, Sheikh Abdul Wahhab, was not existing
No, yeah.
from the
Sahaba, yes.
starting Sahaba,
Yes.
Abu Bakr,
Yes.
إلى القرن الثالث.
Yes. قرآن
There
مفضلة.
was القرون المفضلة.
نعم نعم. Yes.
So there was what we call توحيد الربوبية، توحيد الألوهية، الأسماء والصفات. No, just the آيات القرآن والسنة النبوية فقط.
Yeah.
لا غير. So I think this is kind of bid'ah. It's not fair to make as a, if you don't know this thing, you are not proper Muslim, you know.
Okay, the thing is, maybe some Muslims don't understand the Quran and Sunnah like the first, let's see, English and Arabic. Maybe the Muslims, after the three good generations, do not understand Quran and Sunnah like the early generations. So you needed someone to explain to them. في الثلاثة قرون المفضلة لم يكن هناك قبور تعبد من دون الله، أليس كذلك؟ فلما ذهبت القرون المفضلة جاءت قرون سيئة، فوجب على العلماء أن يبينوا لهم أن ما يفعلونه فهو شرك.
فهو شرك، ولكن مش to divide and to bring new things.
No, the division is not always three. Yeah.
Was what the Prophet left.
Yeah. So like I said, the Tawheed, Uluhiyya, Rububiyyah, Asma' Sifat doesn't always have to be three. So in the Aqidah Wasitiyah of Ibn Taymiyyah, there's only two. But sometimes you look at the people where they have gone wrong. So for example, many firaq, they say Allah does not have yad. Allah says yadullahi fawqa aydihim. Many people said no, Allah cannot have yad. Otherwise he is like human beings. So now you have to deal with them with this thing that did not happen before the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba. People did not come and say Allah doesn't have yad. The Sahaba, how did they deal with the Asma' al-Sifat? قال أمروها كما هي. Allah says he has yad, he has yad. This is Salaf. This is the three Qurun. But now people they don't say that. They say, oh, you say Allah has yad. How can you say that? That means Allah is like a human being. So people changed. That's why even the fiqh have to change to correct the new understanding. Allah knows best.